So good evening, everybody. We're ready to kick off today's event. I'm Lynn Mulholland. I'm the Vice Chair of the Special Needs Network Hong Kong. You might know our chair, Larissa Downs. She's sorry that she can't be with us. She's actually traveling in Europe right now, but I'm joined by our committee members, Erin and Tina, and Carolyn is listening online. Thank you all for joining us today in person and online. In case some of you are not familiar with SNNHK, I'll just say a few words. We are a network supporting parents and caregivers of children with special needs and disabilities. We started out in 2003 as an informal group and have grown into a society with more than 650 members now on our Facebook group and Google group. We are actually celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. Our motto is connect, support, empower, and share. And through events like this, we hope to build an informed community. If you're a parent or a caregiver of a child with special educational needs, and you're not already a member of SNNHK, please feel free to sign up. You can do that through our website. This evening, we are delighted to be here in the CDC, and thank you for allowing us to use the venue for the event. We welcome 4 expert speakers, Dr. Yvonne Becher, Chief Executive of CDC, Melinda Sturges, speech and language therapist at Central Health in Southside, and Athena Wong and Sarah Lowe from CDC, who will introduce us to a practical session on Lego-based therapy. Now, before we start, just a few housekeeping points. After the panel discussion has finished, we'll have presentations from the speakers. We'll have a Q&A session of about 30 minutes. We've collected some questions from those listening online. I'm sorry that you can't ask questions live, but if your question is not answered, feel free to email us. And here in the room, we'll be handing out a microphone and people can listen. So a recording of the session will also be available on request, and the presentation materials will be available on the members section of our website. So if you'd like to request the recording, just send us an email at connect@snnnhk.org. So without further ado, thank you all for coming, and I will hand over to Dr. Becher. Thank you.
Okay, so hello everybody. Thank you for coming and joining us. And first of all, I'd like to say thank you for your time joining us here. I'm Yvonne and welcome you on behalf of the CDC, but also a big thank you to SNNHK for partnering with us. This is a great opportunity, you know, to throw the net wider and to a wider community, and also very much Lynn's connection to the peninsula. Thank you for the chairs and the lovely goodies that we can enjoy tonight. So thank you all for coming, and also Melinda, you know, is welcome as our guest speaker here as well. Thank you, Melinda. Yes, I'm Yvonne. I'm CE currently of the CDC. My background is in psychology. And so I'm still doing clinical work as well as, you know, look after the center. And I'm very delighted that 2 of my colleagues can join, Athena as a speech therapist and Sarah as a special childcare worker. So I will be, I'll be testing the equipment. Yeah, thank you, Erin. Okay, just a very, very quick introduction to the CDC if you're not familiar. We have started out looking after children with special needs, of course, and additional needs, as we say now, in very different ways. We have group and individual sessions, used to, or still predominantly look after children under 6, but really branching out, you know, beyond that age, and predominantly under 8. Counseling up to 12, and we still do assessments up to 16. So it's a long journey, and we're delighted to have families and support families in that journey with parenting, early screening, outreaching. Really, we're flexible. We're coming up with new groups. We're coming up with new services. So we're really looking at how can we meet the demand in the community. This is our center that's self-financed, and as of October last year, we opened a government-subvented service that was integrated in here. And so sometimes, families go to either or both centers. Pre-COVID, we served 480 families and we're working towards that again. There's definitely 100 families in North Point in our other center. And so the other 380 working towards, we're, definitely over halfway now again that we serve, and we have 40 staff to do so. And that's a very lively multidisciplinary team consisting of teachers, special childcare workers, OTs and STs, and of course, psychologists and admin support. So I would like to give you an overview of resilience, which is a huge topic. I could talk on this for days and weeks, really. So I'm really trying to give you the helicopter view, or maybe to give you an understanding and some tips that you can take home as a parent. So the ingredients, what is resilience? How do we define it? Give you some of the tips that we think, the factors that build up resilience, and some of the pitfalls that we fall into as parents, right? The things that we do out of the goodness of our heart, but actually don't help resilience building. And then what to do in daily life, a few more handy hints, I hope. So I borrowed this from the website. I have no idea where I got this from, to be honest, and there's a spelling mistake, and I'm saying this, so I'm not, this is not me, okay? So what happens typically on the horizontal line is time, as we go through time and development. There's ups and downs in life. You see the black line, and then there's a time where there's some shock or stress that can be very acute or can be long-term, as we define in a minute. And people with resilience usually follow the blue or the green line, right? They're kind of, there's a shock or stress, this is tough time, but they come out and they just continue on with their life. Most of us are probably on the black line. It will hit us and we're shaken up a bit on our emotional journey. But we kind of keep going, right? But we're not as good as other people who are more resilient. And then unfortunately, some people will collapse and it just, they don't cope. And that, of course, is something we want to prevent. So this is kind of the concept of resilience in a visual form. If you're more of the verbal type, I do have it trying to summarize in words. It is really defined as how we deal with acute or long-term challenges. So there could be any setbacks in your life. It could be emotional experiences, accidents, even illnesses, right? That really shock you to the core and shake you out of your normal routine and well-being. And of course, it became a very popular topic during COVID, right? Now we're looking back, 3.5 years later. At the time, we didn't know. In 2020, we thought, oh, what's this? And everybody was kind of concerned, and we didn't know. We thought by summer 2020, surely we're over and done with just one of these flu bugs, right? And we didn't know that we had to be resilient for 3.5 years, and it's still with us. And we're still a little bit of the affected by the unknown. But hopefully, no matter what you experience, you hopefully come out emotionally stronger. And that's the resilience, right? Some come out stronger than others. So by definition, they seem to be more resilient. Resilience, we think, we haven't quite, it's not something that's tangible, and that's the hard bit. We think it's to do, of course, with personality. We have different and diverse personalities. There are biological and cultural factors. And the social experience that you go through from a young age will also define your resilience character. And all of that will help us or define and determine how we emotionally react, right? It's like looking at the glass half full or half empty, right? So that kind of gives you an indicator of how your resilience is going. And the things that I mentioned here is also, I should say, it's not just for children with additional needs. It's really for all children, all humans, and even adults as we grow and learn about resilience. So how we react to events makes the difference. And we can learn how to react to events in different ways. And that builds resilience, really. So a few ingredients in a minute. The good news is people are genuinely resilient. There are a few setbacks in life. There are a few things that children have to learn and we can help them with, but most people do come out okay. So why build resilience? Kind of obvious, but just to say it, you can help buffer potential damage caused by adversities, by anything that hits you, because you don't know, are you one of the resilient types or not, right? So the more you build it, or the more buffers you build, the less risky any adversities could be. And for children, of course, they learn to cope better with long-term impact and flourish despite hardships. And that's what we want them to do. We want as parents set the children up for life, right? That no matter what hits them, they're going to get through it, emotionally especially. So why, let's talk a sidestep. Why talk about the young or the SEN population? How, they're most at risk, and they're very fragile in that sense, because they encounter physical, visual, or hearing limitations. They have more fragile immune system. This was a big thing, of course, in COVID. So there's a biological factor that could impact resilience. They can be more impulsive. They have delays in development, so communication, and delays in their understanding. The receptive, expressive language, makes it harder for them if we want to teach them things. They have extended mouthing periods. That was a big thing, of course, during COVID, and accidents and other things. Everything is, different, a little bit different. They're highly sensitive to changes in routine or environment sometimes, especially children with autism. And they rely on adult help longer. So that also goes for resilience learning. The fact is, though, that the teaching, any teaching, resilience, academics, or anything in life, they will get it, but it does take maybe a little bit more practice. It takes more intensity and more time, right? But the journey is worth it. Like I went to a function on Sunday, and a lady with Down syndrome said, yes, we get there, we just take a little bit more time. So that's hopeful news. So I just want to give you some idea of the factors that we think foster resilience. We call it self-efficacy, and that's a sense of confidence in your own ability. Yeah, that confidence, I can do this. That is what defines resilience. And how do we get it? We get it by opportunities that were given to us that give us that feeling of, oh, I didn't quite dare to, but I did. Oh, look, I did it, right? That's that little, We sometimes when we're overwhelmed, and I chose these little sticks here, that mess of sticks down there, sometimes it's too much. So what do? You can help, and I'm giving you already hint number one, give them choices. If something is too much, something is too overwhelming, we're overwhelmed, then we can't be resilient, really. We need to bring it down, make it simple, bring it down to 2 choices sometimes, and that will help. And be generous with specific praise. That feeling of, I did it. It's great when somebody notices, right? And it gives you that validation that, yes, you really did it. And we're talking specific praise, not just good girl, good boy. That's one of my pet topics. Okay, other factors is promoting hope. Resilient people, we know now, are actually, they live on hope. They know there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So that can be done with children by focusing on the positive. If your child is, sort of receptive to good receptive language, for example, you can have that little reflection moment at bedtime where say, what made me smile today? And just reflect back and fall asleep with something positive in their mind. That builds resilience. Or reframing negative self-talk, that half glass full, half glass empty. And guess where they're getting it from? Parents, adults who are around them and model things. And modeling optimism and problem solving is a big factor. There are other things like, not to forget, a lot of people think about the social connectedness, right? Making connections, being social, that is another factor that builds resilience. Getting along in a group, functioning. We are human beings by definition, are actually social people, social beings. And then I know our next speakers will also talk about why we focus so much on the social stuff of social learning. And then there's the consistent emotional support. The reassurance of feeling safe was one of the biggest factors we identified during COVID. That suddenly mommy and daddy at home, suddenly not going to school, the routines were all over the place. And at the beginning, that threw a lot of children, especially with additional needs. So the reassurance of feeling safe, the adults are there, the adults are calming, they rebuild a routine, a daily or weekly routine was one of the key factors. And again, you could go a step further and model and apply regulation techniques like breathing techniques, movement breaks, deep pressure. These are all things we do, we think, sometimes of sensory needs, but these sensory needs are just the tip of the iceberg telling you that child needs it. And one of the bonuses is it builds resilience. So we never know why we do things that, can have these side effects, wonderful side effects. And one big thing is that caregivers and parents, you need to look after yourself. Otherwise, you're not a good model. You're not a reliable resource and a good resource. Very quickly, I'm going to go through some of the pitfalls we do as good parents, even though, like I said, we do it out of the best intentions, but we sometimes forget that being overprotective is not a good thing. We have a strong desire. We want to shelter them. We don't want them to be teased. We don't want them to not achieve or feel they're the last in the class or not picked and that sort of thing. But we can't always be there, and we can only prepare them to deal with that. So sheltering them too much will not do the trick. You need to practice what to do when things don't go according to plan. Practice how? Pretend play, social stories, any way you can think of reflecting on a real situation, anything you can do. Learn to problem solve. Don't just do things for them. That is a really important thing. We're so quick. Sometimes I know it's the timing. It's like rush, rush, rush. But if you can just slow it down and give them the chance to problem solve, then you build resilience. So instead, if we don't do that, if we are overprotective, we actually don't give the child a chance to learn, to analyze, to process, and to understand what goes on, socially especially. And we've learned actually from some research, it heightens anxiety, right? The children who are overprotected, they never dare, they never try. So that is not building resilience. And also, so just remember, even small setbacks, it doesn't have to be a major traumatic experience. Just small setbacks will help the children to build resilience. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but we have research from Japanese kindergartens who have functioned very different from Hong Kong kindergartens. The Hong Kong kindergarten teacher would easily step in and, when there's maybe a conflict or a little bit of fight going on, the adults will step in very quickly, can't have that, must teach. In Japan, they step back and go, see what they do, see how they fight for themselves. And it works. These kids are super resilient in some ways, not always, but in other ways. So it does work when we don't overprotect. Very quickly, we have overcompensation. It's kind of a little bit like protection, but it's overcompensation where we do things for them, right? Again, it's a bit of a time factor, but letting them get dirty, let them make a mess because they need to learn to feed themselves, sometimes starting with the fingers and gradually working towards the utensils, is worth doing. It also gives them a sense of independence. Tick, another one that builds resilience. Being a perfectionist is definitely one of our pitfalls, especially in Hong Kong, I feel sometimes. We compare ourselves to others. Social media is not in our favor, right? There's constantly, I feel for the generation that we're creating here, because comparing ourselves to others always creates insecurities. And so it undermines resilience and glimpses of hope. So if we can just tell a child to just do what you do best, do what you can do, and compete against yourself, try a little bit harder next time, that's okay. So what you do, how to move from being a perfectionist to a realist, is you appreciate the effort, and the achievement kind of comes secondary with specific praise. It's the effort that especially children with additional needs need to hear about. And it's about doing the best you can, not being the best. And focus on the children's strengths. Sometimes we do forget that. I write a lot of reports, and I pride myself in writing a lot about the child's strengths, not just the weaknesses. And, of course, to address the weaknesses, but good report when they talk about the child's strengths as well. Very quickly, they need to learn to deal with emotions. Don't overprotect them from going through some, sort of hardship emotionally. And we teach them here. We use emojis just to start labeling and identifying emotions. There's not just happy and excited. There's also sad and angry. And they need to learn about that. They need to understand and to accept that sometimes you just can't fix something bad that happens, and you need to go through that. That's something we can't protect them from, but we can teach them how to go through something that's, not always positive. So don't avoid situations. And this is one parenting tip. Don't forget to set boundaries to avoid tantrums. All right. Don't let them run free entirely. You do need to set boundaries, even if it upsets them. They need to learn to go through that. Okay, so what to do? Have reasonable expectations, appropriate challenges for your child. You know, so just push them a little bit further. They get that sense of success and mastery. That is great. Encourage them, and even if it's something they struggle with, problem solve, encourage, but don't do for them. And then stick to commitments for the older children. If they say yes to something, and then they suddenly go around, no, don't avoid the tantrum. You say, you wanted to try this, let's try it. I'll hold your hand, we go through this together. Other things are independence, like I said, vital part of life. Give them opportunities and step back and allow them to have independence. Some peripheral support, but not more. Failure is okay, just remember that. Handling this sensitively, but be a role model. Show them how you cope with a bad day, right? You forgot your keys. You watch yourself how you react, because that is resilience building. If you say, yeah, I goofed up. Okay, I just go back and it's okay, I can do this, as opposed to, right, whatever you do, just watch yourself, be aware, and try and be a good role model. That builds resilience. It's really, really vital. But don't beat yourself up if you missed an opportunity, or something's not quite right. Say, oh, that wasn't a good example. It's okay. You be okay, and they will be resilient. They'll forgive you. Okay, so normalize things. Don't personalize, but empathize. One thing I always say, as the last point I want to make, is when they cry and the adults react like, oh, don't cry, it's okay. Maybe it's not okay, right? The empathy part of it would be to say, oh, you seem upset, and it depends if they're verbal or non-verbal. You react in a way that tells them you're accepting them crying, and let's find a way to go over that. You will hear our teachers here say, oh, you look upset, you're sad. Okay, hang in there. I'll be here for you. Do you want a hug? Do you want a distraction? But we'll accept you, we go through it. So don't overprotect them emotionally. Okay, so assess your own reactions to problem solving, like I said. Assess what you're conveying to the children, and don't blow things out of proportion. These are all the things that will help. And a little example I finish with in terms of problem solving. Try not to tell them what to do. Right? There is a problem as simple as something getting out of the packet, and you go, here, darling, let me help you. Try to do a different one next time and go, what are we going to do? What's the problem? Let's analyze it, right? I can't open this. What are we going to do? Don't push them too much. I mean, frustration levels to a point. You need to judge where your child is at. Like I said earlier, personalities, everybody has a different personality. Everybody has a different starting point. So when they had enough, but a little bit of frustration is okay. It makes you think. So let them come up with an idea. Don't be judgmental, even if it's a silly one. You go, oh yeah, let's try this. Can we do with our teeth? That didn't work. Okay, what's your next idea? Okay, so don't be judgmental. If it requires a social solution, like conflict solutions, remind the child to be fair, praise them for their effort, and if they really can't come up with something, give them two choices, binary choices. Do you think you want to try this one, or do you want to try that one? So this is resilience in the express version. Like I said, I could go on each one of these slides forever, but thank you very much, and I look forward to our next speakers, and Q&A will be open later on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. That was amazing, and some takeaways for the adults, I think, as well. Our next speaker is guest speaker, Melinda Sturges. She is an experienced speech and language therapist who has worked for many years in Hong Kong. She obtained her academic and clinical qualifications at University College London. Her work in Hong Kong has been in two main areas: in private practice and the education and training of speech and language therapists. And she actually taught for many years as a part-time lecturer in speech and hearing sciences at the University of Hong Kong. She is based at the Child Development Team, Central Health at Southside Family Health Centre, and her primary areas of interest include developmental disorders of speech and language, specific learning difficulties, and fluency and voice disorders in both adults and children. And tonight, Melinda will be sharing with us about building friendship, dealing with conflict, and helping your child with social interaction. Thank you very much, Melinda.
I've got my, let's get my timer sorted out. Okay. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, good evening. Can I just say how delighted I am to be here and actually in front of an audience, because this is the first time for me in over 3.5 years that I've actually done a live presentation like this. And it's just so nice to see some real faces. Everything else has been via Zoom. Okay, so I just want to quickly say that I've been asked tonight to talk about a few of the activities that I use in my own clinic, in my own private practice, from the field of social thinking. And the goal of this really, and it's what I want to explore a little bit as we go through tonight, is to help the students I work with improve their understanding of social situations. Often they're not that strong on this. And in turn, what I'm aiming for is that that's then going to support their social interaction and, of course, then their self-regulation. So, oh, I've got the same problem that... Oh, just kind of.
Okay, I'll control it.
Will you? Yes. Okay, next one, please. Thank you. Actually, Lynn gave me a very nice introduction, so thank you very much, but I won't repeat any of that, other than to say that my role on the child development team is both in terms of assessment, which probably is about 1/3 of my time, and then 2/3 of the time is therapy. And I work really with infants, probably, I suppose the youngest I would see would maybe be about 15 months. And I work through, obviously, the education system, and then I do see some adults. And my work is primarily with students one-to-one, which is a little bit different from a lot of the way that social thinking curricula are introduced to students. So thank you. Okay, so why am I particularly interested in supporting students with social interaction? Well, I am obviously referred a lot of students with early speech and language concerns, and I'm probably going to see many of them over a period of time. And what I find is that they often resolve their speech and language difficulties, at least they develop quite good functional communication skills, but they actually hit quite significant difficulties with social communication. And this would be probably as they're entering maybe the early middle years of primary school. And of course, with the progression through the academic system, then they're going to just be meeting increasingly challenging situations. So my involvement then shifts a little bit from establishing speech and language skills to looking at how we use language for social interaction. Okay, so very quickly, what skills do we need for really efficient social interaction? Well, obviously, we need to be able to respond appropriately to a range of different social situations. That could be depending on, you know, the context or the people involved. We need to be able to handle conflict, and that's very, very relevant, of course, for young children as they enter primary school. Children need to learn to regulate their responses, not to overreact or to underreact. They need to work towards the ability to solve problems for themselves. We can't get in there and answer everything for them. They've got to have the skills that are going to enable them to get through a lot of these future difficulties.
And then I think probably the thing that everybody would say is the most important is they need to have the skills to make friends. You know, at the end of the day, that's what we really want for our children, to have good, warm social interaction experiences. Now, I've put down 2 sort of key points on this slide, because I don't think there's anything unique about any of these skills. Really, that, you know, there's aspects of this list that apply to most children some of the time. Most children are going to have difficulties with several of these. The thing is that many of the children that we're working with or parenting have a lot of these problems most of the time. So we're really looking at a question of degree here. Okay, so just quickly, why do some children have difficulty with social interaction? Well, I think first and foremost, there are definitely differences in social cognition. So the way their brain is working to maybe take in information from the environment, integrate that information, refer to prior knowledge. There's going to be, in many children, processing differences. They might take a little bit longer before they respond in a social interaction. And I think we all would be aware that for efficient social interaction, it's got to be instantaneous. We can't step back and think through something. It's got to be seamless for us to be able to function really efficiently. Many of our children are going to actually really lack experience of a range of peers, particularly if they've been in a fairly structured preschool setting where they haven't met a large range of different students. And then maybe they go on and they hit an inclusive classroom and they're dealing with a complete range of children from, you know, whatever to extremely confident. Some of them, of course, will just be, you know, have overall immaturity. They're not quite ready to deal with that level of social interaction. But I think whatever the reasons, all of those problems can give rise to difficulties in social and self-regulation, so that the child might overreact or underreact. And all of those factors actually could lead to that. Okay, now, I think you're going to have a PDF of the handout, so I don't want to go into any great detail with defining terms because it's going to take too long, but I would like to draw your attention to the social thinking, which is 2 slides on. One more, thank you. Now, social thinking actually refers to a methodology that was developed by an American speech pathologist, Michelle Garcia-Winner. It was originally developed for assessing and working with children with autism spectrum disorder. But in fact, as it's developed, it's used much more widely than that. And I find many of the concepts from social thinking very, very useful in my own therapy. And I'm not working exclusively with children on the autism spectrum. Social thinking itself is really the process by which we make sense of our own and other people's thoughts, feelings, and intentions, and how they might differ depending on the context. So how well we're able to read other people. And it's interesting to think really that social thinking is an aspect of social learning that starts at infancy. So really from the moment of birth, the infant is starting to learn about the social world. And this is something that actually is going to continue throughout life. And as you meet different social situations, you're going to have to deal with different issues, and you're going to be developing your social skills and your social thinking. Okay, so if we could just go on to the next one. Thank you. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is I'd like to move to a bit more of a sort of practical discussion. And that is that these are some of the activities that I really like to use in my clinical practice. And the 2 that I'm mainly going to be talking about tonight are size of the problem and circle of control. And where possible, I'm going to try and link into some of the points that Yvonne made, because there's a lot of overlap here with resilience. A student or a young child that has good social interaction is learning to be really pretty resilient in social terms. If possible, if I've got time, I might talk a little bit about social scripts, social stories, and the thing I like best of all, which is the children's books, because I think if you look at your bookshelves at home, you've probably got a lot of things that can be useful in this area. Okay, so let me think first of all about size of the problem. This is something I find very, very useful to use with young children. And it's a term that, and a social skill that does come from the social thinking curriculum. So we could have the next slide, please. Okay, now the way I introduce this to young children, it depends very much on the age of the child. I think you can see here that the graphic on the left is probably a little bit more junior than the one on the right. I've used this concept of size of the problem with children as young as 4, particularly if they've got fairly good language skills. But the idea is that what you're trying to do is not tell the child, this is a big problem. You shouldn't make a big fuss of this. This is only a little problem. It's not our putting our values onto the child's perception of the problem. It's a way that we can use to learn about what actually is really bothering the child. Now, of course, children being children, you see them next week, they're going to tell you a completely different set of things. But, take it for what you're given that in that particular session. The first one, I think you can see very clearly shows, little problems. Well, we don't have to react too much. Middle-sized problems, yep, a little bit more. And here, of course, we've got an extreme reaction with a big problem. And this is something that I guess because of the graphic, children find very easy, even quite little ones, to understand. I like the use, I like the use actually of traffic lights as well, because it's a little bit more mature. And I think everybody is familiar with it. I like the fact that the color of the traffic lights relates very much to the color often of the emotion. So big problems, fiery, red, small problems, green, very restful and relaxing, and yellow ones we have to be perhaps a little bit on the alert for. Okay. And then really as the child maybe develops better literacy skills, you might be using something which is much more language-based. Here, there's a scale that I've just put in for for demonstration, which ranges from 0 to 5. Now, actually, I don't really like this one. I don't like the rating of 0, which is just a glitch. Because the examples they give are, I didn't have my pencil, the teacher didn't call on me, I didn't get to be first in line. Now, okay, to us as adults, they're just glitches, who really cares about any of that? But for many young children, those are going to be massive issues. So I wouldn't like to actually, that's a little bit of a value judgment, I think, to say, no, that's a glitch. What I'd rather do is sort of evaluate with the child where they would put these problems, and the goal really is to actually see how you match the way you're reacting to the problem, whether it's an appropriate reaction for that level of issue, and then of course how you could go about maybe thinking of some ways to solve the problem. Now, just to give you an example, I had a little girl of about 10 who I'm not seeing anymore. Actually, this was 2 or 3 years ago, and she had a lot of anxiety. She was a very, very anxious little girl, and actually everything to her was an emergency. When I asked her to sort some things that I knew were aspects of her life that she was concerned about, she put as an emergency up at level 4 or 5, children at the back of the class not listening to the teacher. Now, that actually really, it's not her problem, which we'll come on to look at in the next section. But, really, no wonder she's so anxious, because she's taking the whole world on her shoulders. So it was a very useful exercise for me to actually see where she's placing some of these things that are really, really bothering her. Okay. All right, now often what I'll do is, particularly if the child has got fairly good literacy skills, is I might present them with a load of problems like here, like how big is your problem? You left your library book at home. well, of course, some schools are going to react more crossly than others. Well, about that, there's another one here. Maybe this is the one she sorted out. Your classmate didn't listen to the teacher's instructions. You don't win in the game. Your classmate starts crying. So all of these may be things that could be relevant for the particular child. And what you're doing is you're just helping them sort where they would put that. And when I say I'm not trying to put my own views on theirs, what I would maybe do is try and just get them to reflect on, is that really more difficult than this? Or is that really more upsetting than this? Just to help them get it, start to contain it a little bit, I think. Okay. Actually, I've just got one more thing to say about the size of the problem. I do think, and I think Yvonne mentioned this, that as parents or as therapists or teachers, we can actually play a really, really big part in this. We can demonstrate that, I think the example you gave was lost your keys or forgot your keys. Well, in some situations, that's an absolute disaster. But if we can try and actually keep that fairly well contained and say, oh, that's really annoying, that's really annoying to me, but I don't think it's that big a problem because I think I can go and get the spare key from whatever. Okay, so what you're doing there is you're actually modeling how to react to something that's a disruption, and you're labeling it in terms of something that maybe the child is starting to understand. And you're actually saying, well, I think actually I can sort that out on my own. Okay, so the essence really of those levels of problems is the easy problems, the child can be encouraged to think about sorting them out on their own. Middle-sized ones, maybe you do need some adult help. And then the big problems, we're looking really definitely at adult help, or even perhaps, more at a higher level than that. COVID was often put in as a very, very big problem. And that actually, as we all know, needed governments or even, international level of organization to try and address it. Okay, so the other main, if I could just the other main practical activity I want to look at is circles of control. And I like this very much. This is usually what I would present to the child, a circle with things I can control within the circle. Now, we do have to be aware, of course, that young children don't have the amount of control over things in their lives that we as adults do. But I think we also have to think that maybe we can start to give some of the young children that we're working with or rearing, that we can start to give them a little bit more control. What we're trying to do here is, again, have a list of things that maybe are disruptions in the child's life that they can actually start to problem solve and decide, yeah, that's something, yeah, I think I can control that. So I'll put that in the circle. But oh, no, I think maybe that's something that I really can't. So the next slide would show how I might use this with a young child who perhaps doesn't have very good reading, but here we've got some quite nice graphics, which I can help them with. We've got some examples here, the weather. Well, we'd all like to control that, but we can't. We've got things like kind words, using kind words. I mean, actually, that is something that we can control ourselves. My behavior, it's sort of, probably partway between the two for many young children. But what you see here is a set of, again, sort of issues that might occur in the child's life that you can help them to think about, that's something that I can do something about, that isn't. And then the next slide actually shows a much more elaborate one of these, a more completed one. This is one actually from a set of materials that I sometimes use, although usually I would personalize, because I work one-to-one with children. I know what's going on in their lives, and I usually try and personalize some of the things that I think are a problem for them, so that they can decide, is it something that they could begin to have a little bit of control over. So here we've got things like, I can't control really how other people treat me. Now that's a very, very useful one for children with their friendship skills. Okay, all right, so I've got perhaps I've got 1 minute, so I think what I might do, Sorry, well, 2 minutes, okay. I think what I might do is talk a little bit about the use of social scripts. So a social script is when you provide the child maybe with the sort of language that they need for maybe asking if they could join someone else to play with whatever they're playing with. Or a social script might be, you know, how to greet somebody that you don't know very well, but you know, you do see on a fairly regular basis. Social stories, I don't know whether you're familiar with these, but this is where you'd choose something that perhaps is a particular challenge for a child and put it in the context of a very, very simple story where you'd state the problem, you'd look at some of the things that might happen, you'd look at the outcome, and then you'd maybe look at some alternative ways of resolving that. But the thing that I like best of all actually is to use children's books. So obviously over the years I've collected quite a few, and I just really wanted to show you a couple at the end, and to show you how you can build on some of the practical ideas that I've talked about to reinforce some of these things for the child. And the first one, I don't know whether anybody knows this book, The Good Egg. Christopher really likes this book, as do I. It's a very, very successful children's book. It's written by an American. There's a whole series of them. They're all about really social interaction issues. There's one called The Cool Bean, I think. But this one is The Good Egg, and it's all about an egg who's a perfectionist. And he lives in a carton with 11 other eggs who basically don't give a damn. And they do wild things like they leap off shelves, they push each other down the stairs, they hit each other. And of course, he's desperately, desperately anxious about everything because he's trying to keep them all contained. So it's a really, really nice book. What happens in it is that he goes off because he can't stand them any longer. He goes off and he chills out, he does relaxation, he goes swimming, he goes to bed early, he listens to music, and then he decides that actually he really misses these guys even though they're a pain, and he goes back to them, and of course they're delighted to see him, but they're still doing all these crazy things, and he just decides, well, you know, I'm just going to let them get on with it. It's not my responsibility. I can't be in charge of them. So it's a great book for talking about actually, if you could just, oh no, I think maybe could you go on one? Oh. Okay, no, actually I haven't written it down, but it's a great book for looking at circles of control. What things can I change? What can't I change? And looking at sort of really about, I mean, it's very humorous. So adults like it because of the adult humor in it, and children like it too. Okay, just a couple of others. So if you could just go on to the next one. This is quite a nice book. Do you know? This is part of a series, actually. I think there's a few. What Should Danny Do? It's one of those stories where there's a dilemma and you choose what the outcome should be. So it starts with a boy and his little brother. And the little brother's been given the cool ninja plate at breakfast. So the big brothers had to have the alphabet plate. And of course, this is the end of the world. And there's two alternatives. You present to the child, you know, are you just going to eat your pancakes and say to mum, please, can I have the ninja plate tomorrow? Or are you going to scream and shout until you get it? And of course, the child can choose which one they're going to do. And then you go on to whatever that page in the book, and then the story sort of carries on. So again, it's a really nice one for looking at making choices, looking at the outcome of different choices. And of course, at the end, everything always ends happily. So, you know, nobody's really to blame for anything, but that's a very nice book. And similar to that is one called What If Everybody Did That? Which I like very much as well, because it's sort of often something you would say to children, but it's actually very, very humorous. If you could just go on to the next. So one of the examples is, you know, here's the teacher or the librarian reading to a group of children and everybody's interrupting. You know, there's a rule that you don't shout out, that you wait to ask a question. And then the next one shows all the children. And of course, they're all saying bizarre things like, oh, I want to go to the toilet. Oh, I can't see my toes. I can do this, I can do that. So of course, it's a really nice, humorous way of looking at how different behaviors might actually have an impact on the interaction of the group. I think, you know, it's sort of fun. So children enjoy it. Okay, so I think about the books that you've got. Think about some of the ones that sort of intend to teach a lesson, but teach it in a humorous way, because I think you can probably try and link it in with a lot of these practical activities that are really, really helpful when you're developing a child's understanding of social interaction, and also then, of course, their own social skills. Okay, all right, I think that's it. So is there one more slide? Oh yes, so in the PDF there will be just a list of those books. So okay, then I think the final one is okay. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Melinda. That was a wonderful overview of developing social interaction and building friendship skills. Our next session is actually a practical one. We have Athena Wong, who's the CDC speech therapist, and Sarah Lowe, who is the CDC special childcare worker, who will be introducing Lego-based therapy. And we will have a setup here. So just those who are watching online, just bear with us for a short minute while we set that up. Thank you.
So hi everyone. So I'm Athena and this is Sarah. So we're going to talk about Lego-based therapy with you guys. And just before we dive in to talk about the details, I would like to invite you to think about how would you usually like to play with Lego or toy bricks? So so some of you might want you might want to start thinking of whether you want to play alone or whether you like to play it with other people. Do you usually follow the instruction booklet, or do you just go using your imagination and creativity to create something randomly? And also maybe how many people would you like to play with? So the ways to play with Lego and toy bricks can actually be very versatile. So whether you like to play with them by building a modeled figure following the instruction booklet, or if you like to just stack them up and build something very unique and very randomly, can also affect how we use Lego bricks or toy bricks as a medium to create opportunities for social interactions and social communication with children, or to create these opportunities for the children. So some of you may prefer playing with Lego or toy bricks alone, as you have more freedom to really modify the placement of the bricks and design the Lego model in any way that you want. This is also why it makes it much faster when you play with Lego bricks alone. But of course, since you are the only one who are playing with the Lego bricks, and you might possibly encounter some difficulties where you just don't understand the visual from the instruction booklet, or you just find it really hard to fit particular pieces onto the other. So you might just be sort of like dealing with the battle alone. And on the other hand, playing in a group gives you much more readily source of help. So especially for young children who might be still developing the fine motor and problem solving skills, they might actually benefit from playing in group. And of course, we can't deny that playing in a group definitely creates more interaction opportunities for children, and also help them to really learn to share opinions with others, and also develop some other social skills, for example, the skills to respond to opinions that might be different from themselves, and also how to also build friendships while playing with others. So overall, playing with Lego or toy bricks create us and the children a lot of opportunities to socialize with others and collaborate. And when children get used to really communicating with others in play, they then have increased awareness of peers and themselves. They might recognize more of their own strengths and weaknesses. They may also be more confident to express themselves in social situations. And this is actually the core objective of Lego-based therapy, which is to promote children's skills in collaborative play, to help them develop abilities to follow instructions from peers, to listen, wait, and respond to peers' comments, as well as exchange opinions with others.
So practically, when setting up like for the play, there are a few like important components to be mindful of. So first of all, it must be a safe and shared space. So for example, you can prepare a big floor, like a space, and also maybe a big mat or a table for the children to like putting all the breaks on the table, so easily for them to know what breaks are there. Or maybe they can experiment putting one break on top of the another one, and also maybe even smash down or take out the breaks to rebuild something. And then the second one, of course, we need to prepare some Lego bricks to do so. So we prepare Lego bricks of different colors, shapes, and sizes, so the children can build a model that is closest to their representation. So for example, if the children want to build like a submarine, so we need to prepare some bricks with different colors and also unusual shapes, such as like maybe a curvy windows, or even maybe the diving suits for the figurines to put it together. So when preparing the Lego bricks, we need to take into account whether we are engaging them into Freestyle Project or set project, so of which we will talk about in details later. And afterward, we try to group 3 children who have similar language ability together. So within the group of the children, we introduce and assign 3 main roles, so which we will also talk about it a little bit more in details later on. And last but definitely not least, we as the supporting adults or facilitators, we have to consistently give the children explicit and specific praises and also acknowledgement. We also encourage children to do the same among the groups as well. So by teaching them and also modeling them how to do so, and so that they can learn and start to use verbal expression, gestures, and also maybe combine of the both to respond to and also acknowledge each other's effort.
So moving on to talk about the ways to play with Lego bricks. The first way of play is to follow the style of what we call a freestyle project. So in Freestyle Project, the use of the instruction booklets is actually pretty optional. So children are just encouraged to really build anything out of their own imagination and creativity. And by this, we aim to promote children's skills to be aware of each other's play. And it may start from just by looking at what others are doing, what others are starting to build, and then gradually go on to maybe comment and also verbalize their observations. And ultimately, they might also start sharing their ideas with peers, responding to each other. And the ultimate goal of Freestyle Project isn't just about having children play with Lego bricks on their own, but we wish that children could actually communicate with one another and maybe perhaps agree on something similar, maybe come up with a big theme so that they can build the bricks all together and achieve collaborative play. So an example might be that our children can come up with a big idea of building a park, for example, and each child might just be responsible of building something different, building a part of the park. Maybe some of them might be in charge of building the bench, some of them might be in charge of building the slide, some may be building the seesaw and all that. So they're still revolving the same theme, but then they're collaborating on the same theme, but then each of them are having their own responsibilities to work with as well. So as being different from the Freestyle Project, so set projects are the ones where children are given like a particular model or maybe a set of Lego bricks that they need to play with and work on. And this time the instruction booklet will usually be given to the children so they can actually follow the instructions, refer to the visual or refer to the pictures to really understand how to assemble the pieces together. And because set projects are much more structured, the aim of this way of play is to promote collaboration and social interactions through role division. So each child in a group will be assigned a different role and they will be in charge of something specific in a project. but we often notice that children do tend to really want to do everything on their own. And this is the part where we as the adults or the facilitators will have to step in and really help children learn the structure of a group play.
So as said already, the play advocates work division in 3 specific roles, so which are engineer, builder, and also supplier. And each of them has some specific duties to follow and work on to make the collaboration happen. So for example, for engineer, so as you can see on the figurines, it is actually holding a floor plan. So which means the child who plays as an engineer has to read the instruction booklet and also pass the information to the supplier so that he or she can get a specific Lego bricks for each step of the project. And the engineer is also in charge of giving instruction to the builder, so to tell him or her where and how to put the bricks together. And then the next one is supplier. So you can see that there are some like a few pieces of bricks around the figurines. So which means the supplier act almost like messengers, and he or she needs to listen to the engineer, understand which bricks exactly the engineer is asking for, and to take these bricks and pass them to the builder. Yes. So, and then the last one is the builder. So he or she is the one who mainly does the hands-on work on the Lego bricks. The builder needs to wait and collect the bricks from the supplier and then listen to the engineer's instruction and put the pieces together at the appropriate place. So as the cognitive, language, multi-planning skills and attention required in each of 3 roles are very different. So we encourage children to take turns to try all these 3 roles within the activity. So children may pick their roles by doing like some lucky draw or playing rock, paper, scissors. And after they pick the roles, and then they would started to build a model. And then maybe after a certain amount of time, for example, like 5 minutes, or after achieving a specific numbers of steps, let's say 10 steps, and then children will swap the roles. So this will ensure that all the children gets to practice and also experience playing from all different perspectives. So by taking turns to take up different roles in the Lego project, children also develop perspective-taking skills and learn the importance of listening and communicating with one another.
So when as children learn to really develop the social communication and interaction skills by engaging in Lego-based therapy, which is pretty much a structured collaborative play, we also promote children's social awareness by teaching them how to praise others and also use socially appropriate expressions to comment on and also respond to others. So we as the adults, as said previously as well, because we are acting also like a role model to the children. So we need to be very clear, concise, and also consistent with the praise and social words that we use to the children. And it's also very important that we, like said, we need to be very specific with what we are praising and acknowledging the child of. So including the behaviors or the words that they have used, and also try to use some very straightforward expressions, try not to be too colorful so that children are easier to pick up and understand. And we also need to provide modeling, direct modeling to children sometimes, really just to help them kind of articulate those expressions, or maybe use some gestures to really respond to some other children's pro-social behaviors or their positive accomplishments. So for example, we can encourage children by saying, "Oh, thank you for helping me," "Oh, that's a good idea." And when we model it to the children, we also want children to actually learn and observe those nonverbal cues as well. So for example, the tone that you speak, the facial expression and all that, just so that know that these all actually have an impact on the perceptions from others. And sometimes children do encounter some conflicts when they play together or engage in social discussions. So as a parent or an adult, what we need to do is really to guide children through to help them learn and think in others' shoes, to learn and respect and accept opinions that are new to them, new to their own expectations or different from what they expected. So sometimes, like Yvonne just said previously, we do try to jump in too much or maybe too early, and we do tend to offer children the solution and tell them what the adult desired way to it is to solve a problem. So children do not always understand why some words and some behaviors are should be done, or why some of them should be avoided. So we should really reduce over prompting them, and to truly develop children the skills to empathize with others and problem solve social conflicts. We can kind of encourage children to really experiment different ways to problem solve. We can then afterwards evaluate with the children so that they learn to reflect on what went well, what didn't quite went good, and how to modify and how to pick up, or which one is a better way to problem solve like social conflicts or like practical difficulties as well.
All right, so now after all this like very informative things, let us have some fun together by building some Lego. All right, so maybe we need to set up a little bit. All right, okay. Okay, thank you, Yvonne and Evita. So today we are going to build a house together as a team, just what we're saying, because we have 3 roles and then we need to be a team. So the first thing is to assign the roles. So for engineer, if you guys remember, he or she needs to hold the instruction booklet, so which we have it here to pass the message to the supplier and also the builder. So anyone else is interested to be the engineer to get a glimpse of it? Yeah, anyone else? Yeah. Yay! All right, so you may take a seat, and then we also have the roll card so everybody can see. Maybe at the front. So yes, so everybody can see. Okay, so the instruction booklet, we'll pass it on to the engineer. Yeah, and then the second row is gonna be, oh, sorry. Okay, thank you so much. Oh, the second one is the supplier. So he or she needs to in charge of all our important breaks in his hand. It's very important. So anyone else interested to be a supplier? Yay! Thank you so much. So you can take a seat. Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, in the middle. All right. Thank you so much. Yes, and this is the supplier. Okay, and then, oh, here we go. This is your important material. And then the last one is also very important, is the builder. So anyone else interested to be the builder? Yeah? Yay! All right, you can take a seat. Oh, yeah. Okay, so everybody can see. All right, so maybe we can turn on the light. It's fine. Yeah, thank you so much, Evita. And then so later on, I'm going to show the instruction just same as the instruction book the engineer is holding, but so the supplier and the builder don't peek, okay? Just for everybody to know which step we are on. And then so me and also Athena is going to pretend to be a facilitators to see how we can model and also like, you know, praising the children and then how to model them to praise each other as well. So don't be shy, just have fun with each other, okay? Yes, all right, so here we go. So let's start it. Can you pass the green brick to the builder? Can you pass lovely listening. Orange small bricks to the builder. I like how you describe the color of the bricks. Oh, nice using. Thank you to respond to your friend. I'm going to show you the visual. Can you put the 2 orange bricks on top of the green brick, but leave 1 space at the end on both ends? Very good job showing your friends to use the visual. Yeah. Okay, could you pass the builder another 2 orange blocks?
Okay, here you are. Once again.
Can
you
put those orange blocks using on top of
the existing orange blocks?
Very clear instruction. Very good job.
Pass the builder the red window.
Here you are.
Lovely checking if the bricks is correct. Very good job.
Put the window in between the orange blocks. Doesn't matter which side. Matters which side.
You can also tell.
Oh, sorry. Can you push it
Should I
in?
turn it or?
Yeah.
Nice
Let
checking
me
the
show you
model.
the picture so you can see.
This comes on top, right?
Yeah, the two
Mm.
circles on top.
Nice pointing the visual. Very good job. Yeah, nice
Push
trying.
it in, so
Yeah.
it's fully in.
Mm.
So it's on one side or the other,
It's just standing there. I mean, it can move.
like that. Can show you.
Very good, helping each other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice
Yeah.
trying. Yeah,
Oh,
good
like
job.
how
Good
you
job.
persist in that one.
Okay, could you pass the builder another two orange blocks the same size?
Okay. Yeah.
Can you put those
Nice
on top
using
of
your
the
word.
existing orange blocks?
Very good job trying to use both hands. That's a challenge one.
Can you pass the yellow building block?
Okay.
Can you put it on top of all of it? That's it, yeah.
you.
Perfect.
Very good job saying thank you.
Okay, can you pass the light blue square block?
Okay.
Can you
Very
put that in
good
the
job
middle of the
looking.
yellow block? Okay, great.
Good job saying great to your friends.
Can you pass two slanty dark blue blocks?
Very, yeah, good job. And good job using gesture as well. Very good job.
Where should I put it?
On the
On top?
side so that the slant goes outwards. That's it.
Yeah. Wow, very nice.
Language can help. That's right.
Another two blue slanty pieces, and then put them on the middle of the light blue block so that the roof continues to slant down. That's it.
Very good job communicating with
We're
each
nearly
other.
there, guys.
Yeah, almost there, almost there.
Almost there.
Good job encouraging your friend.
Okay, can
Looks
you pass
colourful.
the small orange block and
Yep,
put
thank
it.
you. The chimney.
It is the chimney, but okay, on
Good
the
imagination.
exact position
It's
on that
the-
side.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Yay,
And
high five.
oh, that's good. Good job encouraging your friend. All right. So let's give a big applause to our lovely team. Very good job. All right. Thank you so much for your demonstration. All right, so as you can see a while ago, so of course, this is the ideal way, like a lot of encouragement and praising. So we can also, no matter if they already can do it or not, we can still like praise them from time to time with gesture, like good job, and then very specific, like, oh, good job, like giving high five. And of course, you need to be a little bit energetic so they will feel like, oh yeah, I really did a great job. Yeah, so that's how we can do. But of course, due to limited time, we cannot really swap the roles. So sometimes children may struggle a little bit of like choosing which kind of the roles they want to be. But of course, it's like very lovely to see that eventually they're okay. Oh, actually, no matter what, I can still like experience all of the roles. So actually, it's fine. So just as mentioned a while ago, even if they like maybe upset a little bit, but it's totally fine. Like you just let them know it's okay. Actually, we can swap the roles. So I'm actually like also building resilience and also the friendship at the same time. Yes. So and last but not least, yeah, you made it. And then there's a little bit more activity that we can also do apart from Lego, because Lego is only like a tools to do so, but also we can make use of other toys to do the similar things as well.
So we've been spending quite amount of time to really talk about the Lego-based therapy. Oh, and actually they are now renamed as brick by brick program. But yeah, if you say Lego-based therapy, a lot of them would still refer and understand what you mean. But so ultimately, we still want to promote a lot of collaboration, a lot of communication and social language and social exchange in playing together as a group. So other than using Lego, which sometimes you might be in a dilemma of whether we should get Lego as a medium, maybe they might not be a toy that your children are a particular fan of, or it can be quite costly as well sometimes for Lego bricks. So some other alternatives that can also promote social interaction and collaborative in a similar structured way could be some sort of either real life event or pretend play with like food toys or actual food. So you can also split those procedures into different steps. So for example, you may start with reading the recipe and then having one help gathering the ingredients, passing the ingredients to the right person, or even getting out from different places, maybe some from the fridge, some from the cabinets, something like that. And then the last one, which is sort of like the builder in the Lego based therapy, would be the one who's actually mixing the ingredients, pouring things around from one container to another, etc., etc. And for older kids where they have higher and more advanced language skills, you may also want to encourage them to really be engaging in role play, where you can prompt them to use and develop their own scripts as well, which also help them kind of experience a bit of like real life situations. For example, being a chef, waiter, and customer. Then they also know how they can actually use their phrases in a real life setting. Say, for example, when they are actually going out for dinner with you. Then that will give them more confidence to even interact and also generalize and bring that skills out of that play as well. So these are some other alternatives to really practice and put the collaborative play into some real life events.
Yeah, all right. So hope you guys enjoy the Lego time. And also you can bring this idea back home so you can play with your kids and then help them to like engage them to do that, to do so. Yeah, thank you everyone. And remember to have fun with each other. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, and impressive teamwork there. So I think that's all we have time for at the moment. I would like to say a big thank you to our speakers. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for joining us. SNNHK has a series of events. We have coffee mornings. Keep an eye on our website and our social media pages for any events coming up. Next week, our next event is a social drinks evening that we hold once a month at Cafe 8. It's called Splice the Main Brace, which is a naval term for celebrating small victories, which we think is fabulous for parents of special needs children. But we would like to invite everybody to come to that and keep an eye on our website and keep in touch with us. And for those online, if you have any questions, do send us an email to connect@snnhk.org. And thank you so much to everybody.